All right, very good. Thank you both, gentlemen. First question, we'll go to Lucky first, and we'll alternate these. Glenn Wright is the Republican candidate for the nomination for Congress in the 3rd District. This past week called for an authorization for use of military force and U.S. intervention in Ukraine. How would you as a senator vote? And what would you do to convince other senators to vote as you would on an authorization of military force in Ukraine?
What's going on in Ukraine?
What is Ukraine?
Yeah, what is Ukraine?
Thank you, Governor Johnson.
Yeah, that's making very good. So, being against the next wars and understanding the problem with the conflict like this, if we don't have a decision, because my background being a helicopter pilot, I was a tactical expert. If we don't have a decision in place of how we're going to win, we're not going to win. And what the outcome is. So if we want to provide support or aid, we could go in and stomp Russia if we have a decision, and it's something that we all agree on with Congress voting for an act of war. It's one of the things Dave Places has helped me out with the most, and I'm a big fan of, Defend the Guard, preventing our National Guard troops, because we're still stuck on all these deployments that the active army keeps dragging our guys out of our state without any decision. So if we didn't have a clear plan, I would vote against it. We have enough veterans and private contractors that can go over there, and it can be privately funded, and as mercenaries or as militias as we originally started. But to have this blank check where there's so many people war profiteering, all these companies that are just ready to start another war, if it's Ukraine, if it's Iran, there's different options. Jimmy?
I would vote no. And here's the reason why. If we look at the past 30 years of U.S. foreign policy in Eastern Europe, we had a real opportunity post the Berlin Wall came down, the Soviet Union was falling apart, its coffers were empty. That was an opportunity for all these states came out of the Soviet Union, were gaining back liberties that they had not had for decades. And how did we seized that opportunity as Americans? We thought, hey, let's expand NATO, put weapons all over Europe, and geopolitically weaken Russia and make them our foe. We literally have made this Ukrainian conflict happen over the past 30 years. I hate to see death and suffering, and I think everyone in this room feels that exact same way. But about a month ago, and this just made me want to throw up when I saw Hillary Clinton and was on the TV, and they asked her, what she thought about all this, and she said, what, we have an opportunity here. We can put weapons and money into Ukraine, and just like when the Soviets were in Afghanistan and we funded the freedom fighters there, we can bleed the Russian country dry. We can exhaust their treasure. We can exhaust their soldiers' lives. And I just wanted to throw up. That was disgusting to me, that we would use Ukraine as a pawn to expand geopolitical power for America. I absolutely think there could be a diplomatic solution to the Ukrainian conflict if America would quit trying to pull the strings of countries on the other side of the globe.
All right, and this goes to Jimmy first. The vote on confirmation for Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court was almost entirely along party lines, with the exception of 3 Republicans who voted aye, including, by the way, Mitt Romney. Some libertarians have pointed to Justice Jackson's work as a defense attorney and noted some decisions that she made, which served to limit government overreach. When you get a chance to vote on a Supreme Court nominee as our senator, what characteristics of that person, that nominee, will be of most interest to you?
Thank you, Barry. If I had been in the Senate, I would have voted for Ketanji Brown Jackson. Her work as a public defender and protecting the individual, I think, is absolutely critical to have that type of sentiment on the Supreme Court. Because many cases that go to the Supreme Court are individuals fighting for their rights against government abuse. I would oppose Supreme Court justices who are currently sitting on the board who have voted in favor of government power and against the individual. So if I had been in the Senate, I would have voted to confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I think my goal and what I'm looking to do is to build a Libertarian Party and to take this movement and move it forward. So with that clear objective, whoever falls in line with that and that's going to help support that, that's how I want to grow this. We're at such a fun stage of the Libertarian Party to really start making movements and start doing things. People are asking, people are curious. And that's going to lead my decisions. It's how we can benefit the party, how we can grow it. And all right. Thank you.
All right. Next question goes to Lucky first. The 1033 program of the United States government, the Law Officers Supply Office, sends excess military equipment to local police departments. Which raises the question, why do we have so much excess military equipment? What would be your approach to provisioning the military? And how would you vote on funding the 1033 program?
Having been in the military and seeing how much fraud, waste, and abuse there is, I mean, I would not be opposed to cutting the military budget in half. They're completely overfunded, and their goal and their objective, I think the military focus should change to more an environmental issue. And however we can make that switch, instead of bullets and you know, M or C4, we need to start building bridges and doing things to help the planet using our engineering. So, I mean, with the excess of weapons, I want to give it to the police is just not a good idea. They're killing more people than they need. So, I mean, stockpiling them or destroying them, but definitely not funding the police.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Lucky, just to build off of that. I remember the Boston Marathon bombing. I think that was in 2013. I'd only been in the state for a few months and watched in horror when police went door to door in those suburbs and took people out of their homes at gunpoint, little children, moms and dads. What the hell? Why are we giving military-grade weapons and vehicles to local police departments? When you do that, you send a message that the citizens are the enemy. And that is so messed up. We definitely do not need to, when you bring in those weapons, you just escalate the problems. Like he said, police brutality, police killings, those are just going to get worse when you have police marching down the streets like soldiers in a war zone. Absolutely shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
All right, and this one goes to Jimmy first. And gentlemen, I hope that you both have fun with this one. As the first elected Libertarian senator, you've been granted the ability to abolish one federal agency. Which one is first on your chopping block?
One federal agency. I think I'd get rid of the CIA. They just do so much damage around the globe. But if I was going to, I think if there was consensus and I was trying to abolish a federal agency that I think there was the most consensus to abolish, would be the Federal Education Department.
That's a great answer. By far the CIA. When I've worked with them and seen what they've done and the terror tactics, and it's been embarrassing. And nobody should be treated that way. And they've done more damage. I mean, just historically, El Salvador. And if we can't fix the problem they're about to create, and they're already making more problems, and they justify spying on us, we got to do something. This is, they're making decisions for us on our behalf, thinking that they know better because they, have some information and they choose to interpret it. So, by far the CIA.
All right.
All right. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, I have one in the back. Thank you, Adam.
Monetary policy is something that has long been ignored in federal politics, but that is the level where monetary policy is set. With people feeling inflation and the crumbling of the dollar, what kind of policy, what legislation would you pursue and sponsor to address inflation and monetary policy?
All right, Levy, you're up first.
I love the free market system. I think the first problem that these elected officials is, that I want to address is not balancing the budget, and then we can work towards the debt. And I like Warren Buffett's idea. You get no salary, you get no pay unless it's balanced. You just start there, small steps, and then we grow from that. I think dealing with the inflation, the free market system will happen. The Fed is a nightmare. It's Federal Reserve, and moving towards restricting them or limiting that. Less income tax. Hey, that would start helping everybody. But yeah, the first piece of legislation, and then if we could get that passed to where nobody gets any salary without a balanced budget, and then the next step is nobody gets any salary when there's federal debt. So the two steps.
Yeah, just to build off of that, I absolutely agree with Lucky. A balanced budget amendment to the Constitution would be a wonderful thing for this nation. To talk about inflation, the report from Mike Lee chairs this commission, but they put out a report about a month ago that the cost of inflation in the western states is a little over $500 a month per household. That's a lot of money that's not being paid as taxes. That's, your bank accounts, your savings are devaluing every day as inflation runs wild. And I was listening to Ron Paul's Liberty Report. This was a week or two ago, and he talked about how they say we're sending X million dollars to Ukraine for this, and we just approved X million dollars to Ukraine for this. And then he said, they're telling us that now the total funding to Ukraine in this crisis is $6 billion or something like that. And he said, what are they just printing and funding that they aren't telling us about? With the Fed not being audited, and we can't even, first we have the Fed, but we can't even see what the Federal Reserve is doing. That's bogus. That's ridiculous. We absolutely need to know what this nation is doing. We need to fully audit the Fed, and we need to end the Fed.
Yeah.
Thank you.